Hey, before I start, this video might stir up some feelings if you're a diehard fan, but hey, I love all these games too. Nothing's perfect, right? So take a deep breath, relax, and enjoy the video. And please, no need to get triggered. Game developers must think we're like those turkeys in American holiday movies, stuffed to the brim with filler content that makes some games way too long. Imagine how much better these games would be if they were shorter and more focused. Sure, those of us who've watched all of Naruto are used to it, but sometimes they go too far. You're just about to reach the end of a game, but first you have to travel back in time, collect 100 little stones, or level up 10 times. I mean, just why? The following 20 titles would be so much better if someone took a pair of scissors to them, cut out all the filler, and got straight to the point. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to, hit the notification bell, and get your fingers ready to tell me in the comments which game you think is the most unnecessarily dragged out. Let's get started. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Listen up, Nintendo, you can release the Switch 2, Switch Attack, or Super Switch, but first, you owe us a nice remake or remaster of Wind Waker. The Legend of Zelda game was one of the most criticized when it was first released, but now it's loved as it should be. That said, we still remember the filler that was the Triforce Quest. It was so terrible that when the game was released on the Wii U, this part was modified to make it less of a chore. Thank goodness for that. Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 has a lot of filler, pointless missions and exceptionally long animations that stretch out the game's length. The question is, what if the filler, the mundane tasks, and all the time spent doing nothing are actually part of the experience? This question makes Red Dead Redemption 2 such a divisive game. We love it here, it's fantastic to lose yourself in such a beautiful world, but trimming a few hours would have done it some good. Borderlands 3. As for the sequel, not so much. The original Borderlands 3 is tons of fun, but it's stuffed with filler in its maps and missions. The environments are bigger, sure, but they're also much emptier. There are more missions, yes, but they're also way more repetitive. In the end, you can't help but feel like there's filler everywhere, both in exploration and in completing tasks. That's why the best Borderlands game is still the second one. God of War 2018. The 2018 reboot and continuation of Kratos' adventures also suffered from the curse of filler. The game padded its length by making you revisit areas you'd already explored multiple times, or by throwing you into elevators full of enemies for no reason. All that could have been cut. Elden Ring. Another master of filler is Elden Ring. Yes, I know Elden Ring is an amazing game, but wouldn't it be even better with a few fewer caves? Wouldn't it be a better game if the bosses in those caves weren't repeated to the point of exhaustion? Sure, I get that the lore explains everything, and we've read the secrets of the lands between beyond Elden Ring, but seriously, fewer caves, please. Dragon Quest XI. Then there's Dragon Quest XI. This JRPG lasts 60 hours. Does it really need filler? Something that's 60 hours long doesn't need any padding at all. The experience, story, and combat are already true to the classic formula that defines the saga, making the extra hours feel watered down. And the filler in Dragon Quest XI mostly comes from its time-traveling sections, which could have been cut down a bit. Still, it doesn't ruin an experience you'll remember for life. Death Stranding.
There's a time for everything.
Death Stranding is the first of many games on this list that seems like it's about to end but doesn't. The adventure starring Sam Porter Bridges isn't exactly the most dynamic, thanks to its walking-based gameplay, and it's full of long Kojima-style cutscenes.
Cops will watch over you 24 hours a day. That is to say, we will. We're here to help.
But this is especially evident in that moment when you have to go back to a place you've already been, and if you haven't set up zip lines, you'll spend hours walking, like doing the Camino de Santiago. The Last of Us Part 2.
Is this the right place? Definitely the right place.
Now, just because we say a game would be better without certain content doesn't mean any of the games we're talking about here are bad. In fact, they're all pretty great, including the fantastic The Last of Us Part 2. However, that doesn't change the fact that Naughty Dog's game pulls more tricks than Ronaldo in his prime, making you think it's about to end when it really isn't. You keep thinking it's over, only to find out there's more gameplay hidden up its sleeve. Sure, we know this is a narrative tool used by Druckmann and company to convey that revenge is slow and painful, but maybe it didn't need to be that long.
I think I'd let you do this on your own.
Dragon Age Inquisition.
They said you stepped out of a rift.
Now that Dragon Age Dreadwolf is on the horizon, it's a great time to talk about how massive Dragon Age Inquisition was and how long it was too. Obviously, when the gameplay structure is like an offline single-player MMORPG, it's easy to guess there will be lots of quests to activate 6 devices or clear out 4 bandit camps. But the thing is, BioWare also reserved a spot for the practice that's become a recurring theme on this list. The game continues when it seems like you're nearing the end. Days Gone. Beyond the controversy at its launch over the less than stellar graphics performance on PS4, the adventure of Deacon St. John and his motorcycle through a zombie-infested United States has found new life since its release on Steam, earning over 90% positive reviews. That said, the game is still quite long, and like The Last of Us Part 2, it tricks you into thinking it's about to end, but doesn't. We're not complaining too much though, because the final stretch includes those battles with hordes of hundreds and hundreds of zombies that are insanely fun. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. The last canonical game in the Metal Gear series starring Big Boss, Snake, and company had tons of development problems. The downside was that the final hours of the game suffered because of this, and content that should have been there was replaced with filler. It was a shame because The Phantom Pain is a wonderful game that could have been magical if it had been finished the way Kojima wanted. Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn has the same issues as other big open world games. In fact, open world games are the kings of filler, and Horizon is no exception. It suffers from similar problems, missions that pile up one after another, a slowing down of pace as you approach the end of the adventure, and zone changes just to give you more places to play errand boy. But Aloy is so awesome that it's easy to forgive. Yakuza Like a Dragon. Japanese RPGs have a bad habit of dragging things out, and Yakuza Like a Dragon wasn't spared. Right before you get to the end of the game, Ishiben is forced to fight and fight again because he needs to level up and improve his skills. It's a real buzzkill, and the game doesn't need it since it's already long enough on its own. Thankfully, this doesn't happen in its sequel. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
That's that. Hey! Looks like you're next.
Continuing with another JRPG, the sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake has a lot of filler in its open world, but also in its main story. There's a section where you have to throw boxes at hanging objects in a factory, which is terrible, and another where Aerith has to pray, and pray some more. It's enough to make you want to cry. And it's not just dramatic because these are very boring areas, but also because they're filled with extremely slow animations and clunky mechanics. Xenoblade Chronicles X. The cover art for this Wii U exclusive was stunning, but it was topped off by one of the towering giant robots featured in the game. This great selling point, the ability to explore the world on a mech, was one of the big draws of the JRPG. However, it took between 30 and 50 hours to unlock it. I am a big fan of the series, but we have to admit that they might have gone a bit overboard here. Sure, it didn't go to the extreme of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and its gacha-style gameplay that stretched the game out, but X has earned a place of honor on our list. Bravely Default. The truth is, when I played Horizon Zero Dawn, the filler was pretty enjoyable. I don't jump into these games to rush to the end, but for the opposite reason. However, it's a different story when I enjoy a JRPG like Bravely Default, because no matter how much sense it makes in the narrative to repeat the same thing over and over again, come on, Square Enix, don't ruin the beauty of this fantastic game with pure filler. In Bravely Default's case, it was somewhat acceptable because the reason for repeating the same thing over and over again during the main story made sense, but what Middle-earth Shadow of War does is just crazy. The game throws in an absurd tower defense at the end of the campaign that laughs in the face of the well-designed Nemesis system, forcing you into absurdly repetitive battles that you have to go through multiple times. It makes no sense. Persona 5. Persona 5 is one of the best JRPGs in history, and also one of the longest. The Phantom Thieves can keep you busy for over 100 hours exploring dungeons, collecting personas, and studying for school exams. A summer vacation segment, which was a relief and a fun moment in Persona 3 and 4, isn't as well done in Persona 5 and leads into the most boring dungeon in the game.
Let's interview those three.
To top it off, the definitive royal version of the game adds an extra semester and another 20 hours to uncover the true ending of the story. It's definitely an amazing game, but we can't help but think that if it had been more concentrated, fewer players would have left it unfinished. Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Let's take a break from JRPGs and dive into the open world game with the most filler ever, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's a beautiful game packed with things to do and a lot of fun, but it's also stuffed with meaningless errands, plot missions that don't get to the point, and repetitive combat. If some of the fat had been trimmed from this rich recipe, it would have been exquisite. Alien Isolation. Filler isn't just in open or semi-open worlds, it's also in horror games like the fantastic Alien Isolation. It's a masterpiece, no doubt, 10 out of 10. I'd marry it, and man, did it keep me up at night from the sheer terror. But it's also true that some backtracking, objectives randomly placed on the map, and a few unexpected twists were there just to pad out the game's length. None of that was necessary. Well, anyways, everyone, these are the 20 video games whose filler killed us, but of course there are plenty more. Now I want to know yours. Tell me which titles you think should be avoided because of how artificially drawn out they are. A JRPG, perhaps. An endless open world game? I'll be reading your comments. Thanks a million for watching the video. Remember, you can suggest any topics you want me to cover. What should my next top 20 be? While you think about it, keep enjoying video games and have a good day.